super-dimensional games descend upon Blue Star. Everyone can enter the game to obtain a world fragment, become a deity, lead their own tribe of faith to fight in all directions, and even conquer foreign worlds. Fortunately, Lodan, who has traveled through time, has a drop system. Both he and his subordinates can harvest drops after victory. Log. Your follower defeated the forest wolf pack and dropped. Bind the wolf pack. Log. Your follower defeated the sun elf and dropped. Bloodline, son of the sun. Log. Your follower defeated the wild angel and dropped. Primitive divinity. Log. Your follower defeated the void evil god and dropped. Starting from the lowest bloodline quality goblin, Lodan embarked on the path of domination filled with blood and fire. Keywords of the novel. Gods. Starting from goblin with no pop-ups, gods. Starting from goblin with full download of TXT, gods. Starting from goblin with the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Prisoner Seed Goblin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Prisoner Species. Goblin T04 World Region. Under the illusory sunshine, the dense forest appears a bit deep, with a pair of green eyes flickering in the darkness, constantly swaying. A burly and tall goblin warrior, resembling a black bear, was holding a stone spear in his hand, but his feet were quietly and swiftly moving without making a sound. His cruel eyes were peering at the prey in the jungle, with a hint of excitement. Kill. We have been searching for these first-order steel-backed wild boars for a long time. For the glory of God. This hunting sacrifice will definitely satisfy the great God. As strange roars echoed through the jungle, shoo. 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 One stone spear after another was fiercely thrown by the sturdy and powerful green arms, and then pierced into several massive steel-backed wild boars. Ow. As the dominant species in the jungle, the steel-backed wild boar has always been the only one that attacks other creatures, and has never experienced such fierce attacks since reaching adulthood. After being suddenly attacked, they suddenly turned red in their eyes and rushed wildly towards the direction of their attack. The group of steel-backed wild boars had a slight silver-black luster behind them, which was the origin of the steelbacks. Their collision seemed like the earth shaking, but it did not shake the killing intent of the goblin warriors at all. Death. Tear up these wild boars. The massive goblin warriors were unwilling to be outdone, with muscular knots on their green bodies. They jump in the jungle, easily avoiding the boar's charge, and then attack from the side with their sharp claws, grabbing these steel-backed boars open and piercing their stomachs. Shoo. Snicker. A large amount of black and red blood spurted out, and the greasy internal organs flowed out one by one. The ups and downs of the huge black shadows in the jungle brought the battle to an end. The huge steel-backed wild boar was covered in blood like a spring, and its unwilling eyes lay lifeless on the ground. But these goblin warriors did not immediately leave the dangerous jungle with the bodies of the steel-backed wild boar. But instead, he raised himself to the sky and let out a deafening roar, then piled up the corpses of these steel-backed wild boars and began to dance the most primitive sacrificial dance around them, the great goblin and the god of hunting. Praise you. In order to bring you joy, your loyal people offer you a wonderful hunting performance. Your loyal people hope you can accept this sacrifice. As the sacrificial dance began to dance, the space began to become somewhat distorted. Buzz, a pair of blood-red eyes, symbolizing terror and cruelty, quietly emerged above the jungle. He looked down coldly at the goblin warriors dancing below, bringing endless pressure to these goblin warriors. But these goblin warriors are not afraid to turn against joy, because behind these blood-red terrifying eyes is their father, their great loving father, Goblin and the god of hunting. The arrival of Crimson Eyes represents that their great father is paying attention to them, and there is even a possibility of divine grace descending upon them. This is their supreme glory. After a moment, the corpses of these steel-backed wild boars withered away, and a handful of blood-red mist descended from the air, making these goblin warriors feel that all the energy they had expended earlier was instantly restored, and they seemed to have become stronger. Great Father! Suddenly, high voices kept shouting. Log! It has been detected that the lifespan meets the standard, 18 years old, which is sufficient to withstand a very small amount of dust erosion for a long time. Log! Congratulations on successfully entering the super-dimensional game, bound with a super-dimensional imprint, obtain a star-free, Freeman, status. Log! We are currently randomly selecting world fragments for you. We have randomly selected T04 world regions, dust-level world fragments, and identified their material abundance as rich. Log! We are randomly starting a race for you. We have randomly started a race for you, the Goblin race, with a quality of prisoner race. Log! Your race Goblin has placed a home in the world debris. Log! Civilization point plus 10. Log! Belief points plus 100. Log! Your followers have performed primitive sacrifices to you. Log! Your belief points plus 236. Log! You have bestowed divine favor. Log! Your follower defeated the first-level warrior level, steel-backed wild boar, and obtained the special effect, steel-backed. Log! Your followers conducted a primitive worship of you, and you obtained Totem Hunting Divinity 0. 9%. Above the dense jungle, Lodan couldn't help but smile as he watched as the sacrifice was completed below, busy with handling the corpses of the steel-backed wild boar and the goblin warriors recycling stone spears. He can only appear in the fragments of his world in the form of a pair of eyes, and can only appear within the range that believers have already explored. Fortunately, when I traveled through time, there were also cheats that allowed my followers to drop them by killing or defeating them. The dropped items can directly enhance my followers, which is these goblins. Otherwise, I really don't know how to survive in this dangerous super-dimensional game. Lodan recalled when he first entered a super-dimensional game and found out that his initial race was actually the lowest-level prisoner species, Goblin. Others were a bit foolish. How can Goblin survive in the cruel super-dimensional game, with his bones as thin as a stick and unable to defeat even wild dogs? And these goblins have now evolved into burly and strong goblin warriors, all thanks to his efforts and a little help from the drop system. The place where Lodan crossed is called Blue Star, which is an incredibly huge planet, and even a considerable part has not been explored by humans. Decades ago, suddenly one day, a super-dimensional game arrived, and all intelligent beings could enter the super-dimensional game, obtain a world fragment, and become a god player. What's even more surprising is that everything in the super-dimensional game can be brought back to Blue Star by paying faith points, which is equivalent to Blue Star obtaining countless resources out of thin air. Even the powerful players among the gods can easily manipulate the starry sky, tear apart the void, and conquer the universe. But this is not entirely a good thing. Entering the game will bind dimensional imprints. If their world is captured or even destroyed in a super-dimensional game, they will also die in reality. After all, the Dark Forest Law is followed in the Endless Void. If world fragments are discovered by other beings, it is highly likely to be an unavoidable war. And in war, there will be death. What's even more terrifying is that due to the advent of super-dimensional games, the spatial rules of Blue Star are no longer stable, and space cracks will crack at any time, pouring in a large number of monsters. So far, due to the slaughter of monsters, Blue Star humans have only left 1/3 of their original size. This also leads to the fact that despite knowing the extreme cruelty of hyperdimensional games, the Human Federation has to enter and seek powerful forces to defend itself. And this also makes the initial race of each god player extremely important. Even the quality of the initial race has already determined the lower and even upper limits of this player. New books and seedlings seeking collection and follow. Up reading, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Goblin Elite. Ruins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Goblin Elite. Ruins. All initial races have 4 major quality levels: mythical species, monarch species, war species, prisoner species. Prisoner species. Adults are 0-level creatures, and a few can become first-level warriors. Prisoner species cannot give birth to superlatives, break through the limitations of the world or planet, and cannot be considered a true civilization. Just like the goblins, there has never been a super-level goblin in the history of super-dimensional games. So, the prisoner race is known as a weak race that cannot forge a true civilization, confined to the planet like prisoners. The goblin tribe is relatively good. At least a few lucky children can reach the level of a first-level warrior when they reach adulthood, with a maximum of 3 levels. Like the dwarves and half-bodied individuals in the prisoner race, there are hardly any individuals who reach the first level of adulthood. War type. With a large number and good individual strength, as a short-lived species, adept at launching wars with a sea of people tactic. The lower ones include werewolves, lizards, and others, while the higher ones include lions, dragons, and elves, all of whom are the backbone of endless void warfare. Monarch species. They are born with a long lifespan and strong strength, even occupying upper positions in the endless void, such as high elves, dragons, giants, etc. Mythical species. Race, just like its name, basically exists in mythology and is extremely rare. For example, demon lords, angels, titans, divine descendants, elemental lords, and so on. Lodan has always been a top student in the school due to his talent for traveling, and he has ranked first in all previous super-dimensional simulation competitions. He has even repeatedly achieved terrifying results in using war to overthrow monarchs. Has always been the admired object of all reserve deity players in the Human Federation Zone 2, Zhou City. Until Lodan entered the super-dimensional game, he was randomly assigned to the initial goblin race of the prisoner species. In fact, in the eyes of other players, he still has a chance to turn the tables. That is because the Human Federation's Space Warfare Department once approached him, promising that as long as he signed a contract of sale, he could obtain war species as his initial race. But he refused. Open the super-dimensional forum, there are still people discussing him now. How did I not see Lodan's figure after binding the hyperdimensional seal? Don't you know yet? Lodan refused the Space Warfare Department, thinking that he could use the prisoner seed to counter the war seed on his own. Can the difficulty be the same? Prisoner species have no potential at all. Let's go against it. Also, what you said is a bit sour, isn't it? That's right, why didn't the Space Warfare Department invite you? Even if it's a suicide contract, it's not something anyone can sign if they want to. What's there to discuss? It won't be long before we see him again. Yes, I'm afraid Goblin is the lowest level existence among the smallest dust-level world fragments, and it shouldn't be long before it's killed by the beasts. Hey, although signing a contract with the Space War Department is equivalent to selling oneself, with no more freedom, I would rather choose to survive. Hey, do you know that Zymenking, who was previously ravaged by the blood of Lodan, signed a contract with the Space Investigation Department to obtain the high-level war species, the Yalong race, as his initial race? True or false, it is said that there is a 1 in 1,000 chance that the Yalong people will return to their ancestors and become lower-level monarchs. Isn't Shimin Chin taking off? There's a good show to watch. Previously, there was a small conflict between Zymenking and Lodan. Do you know the Princess Hathaway of this generation, the former imperial family of the Jishi Empire in Zone 1? You know, what's wrong? I remember it looked great, but unfortunately anyone who tried to make a notebook based on her was caught. It's really regrettable. That's not what I'm talking about. I heard her initial race was angels. Angel. Yes, and it's also the first generation of wild angels. I have also heard that it is said to be a newly discovered ancient star by federal legislators from the royal family of the Jishi Empire, and a wild angel descending on it. Too strong, this is a super thigh. Thighs. These thighs are not something that even cats and dogs can hold, at least not your dirty werewolf. So what about the jackal man? Speaking of which, I have established a tribe and started exploring nearby, hunting wild animals, and at least surviving without worries. Tribe +1. Licking is still possible. I heard that during this period, all players who activated the super-dimensional mark were assigned to the T.World community, with only different regions. Soon, the forum for the T.World community was established. Really, there isn't even a world community forum. It seems like we haven't explored the world community, so it shouldn't be very dangerous. Not necessarily, after all, we are all newcomers and shouldn't be assigned to a highly dangerous world community. Let's not talk about it for now. Is there any big shot who can support some resources? I'm in the T04 area. The believers have just established a tribe and are being surrounded by a group of unknown Lancio chickens. It's urgent. It's easy to say, I heard that Lancio chicken steamed for 2.5 hours is the freshest, tender, and juicy, but you also have to pay the corresponding price. Please, big shot, private chat. Lodan closed the Super Dimension forum and did not pay any attention to the comments of other god players. If there were no golden fingers, he would definitely sign the contract of sale without hesitation, but I'm cheating. Thinking about it, Rodan opened his divine panel, Gods. Rodan, Divine Power. Totem, Virtual Body, Rule. Hunting, 43.7%, Bloody, 23.1%. Clergy. Goblin, Divine Emblem. A pair of blood-red eyes, Divine Technique. Hunting Spear, Rampage Bloodline, Goblin Blessing Technique, Anchor of the Void Believers. Goblins, Rank 0/1345, Goblins Warriors, Rank 135th, Civilization. 23.00 Faith. 793 points, Warehouse. Special Effect, Steel Back, World Fragments. Dust Level, 340 square kilometers / resource, abundant, nurturing first-order beasts and resources. With a slight movement of his mind, Rodan came to the sky above the goblins' tribe and looked down at the green-skinned creatures goblins below who were distributing hunting results. Although there is a system, I still envy those players whose world fragments' initial wisdom races are monarchic or even mythological races. But fortunately, it's better than a tragic player who doesn't even have intelligent life. If the initial race is a race without any intelligence, and the player cannot obtain other races as the initial race, then the player can only choose to become an affiliate of other players. There must be other players nearby who are willing to accept them. Rodan revealed his huge crimson eyes and appeared above the goblins. A strong divine power suddenly appeared, causing all the goblins below to worship fervently. My loyal people, I am very satisfied with your recent sacrifices, so I am bestowed with divine grace. After speaking, Rodan applied the special effect, Steel Back, obtained by the system to the goblin race and selected 35 goblin warriors. Log. You have consumed the special effect, Steel Back. Log. You have consumed 350 faith points and selected 35 first-order warrior level goblin warriors as your target. The next moment, there was a great change in the goblin warriors in the tribe. Roar. Almost instantly, the goblin warriors below began to emit a huge roar of anger. The green skin on the surface of the body becomes even thicker, even appearing a faint silver-black luster, and the already twisted muscles are once again swollen, becoming even more ferocious and terrifying. First-level Goblin Warrior, second-level Goblin Elite. Suddenly, a group of giant Goblin Elites appeared in the tribe below, each with a body size of over 2.5 meters, like a big brown bear, and even more terrifying. Race. Goblin, Quality. Prisoner Seed, Level. Elite, Level 2, Special Effect. Hunting Blood, Steel Back, Binding. Wolf Pack, Range. All goblins, binding the wolf pack. When more than 3 goblins are together, their combat power and fighting spirit are improved to a certain extent. Special effect, Hunting Blood. When entering hunting mode, agility, strength, combat will, and endurance will all be slightly improved. Special effect, Steel Back. When entering combat mode, your skin will be coated with a layer of steel film, making it less prone to injury and easier to recover after being injured, with a slight increase in toughness. Not bad, although Goblin Elite is only at the 2nd level now, due to the effect of binding the wolf pack, its combat power should be completely comparable to the 3rd level ordinary wisdom race in group battles. Lodan thought to himself, feeling a little excited. Even for advanced warfare, there is not such a fast pace of advancement. Level is just a level, while strength is composed of a multidimensional structure. Just like the 2nd level elite whiteboard warriors, heavy knights, dragon vein sorcerers, arcane scholars, and even young dragons and elemental lords, their combat power is not at the same level. Another issue is the issue of resources. Whether it's tribal expansion, cultivating stronger believers, or world fragmentation, resource issues are of paramount importance. Lodan looked at the joyful goblin tribe, but his brow furrowed slightly as he scanned the words, World Fragments. Dust level, rich, on the panel in front of him. The world debris is divided into dust level, constant sand level, boundary island level, and microplanet level. The richness of resources is poor, barren, acceptable, abundant, precious. As the first in all previous superdimensional simulations, he has a clear understanding of world fragments of different sizes and resource richness, while his own world fragments only have a few first-order beast resources at most, which cannot be rated as rich and even decent. Suddenly, thinking of a possibility, Lodan's eyes lit up. Can't there be any relics? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Anchor of the Void. 4-level space crack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Anchor of the Void. 4-level space crack. To obtain resources, there are only 3 ways: trade, relics, and world war. Lodan looked at a flat terrain, the size of a world fragment from a county in his past life. His spiritual response was very weak, and at most, he could only support first-order indigenous life. Even if he had a system to transform these 35 goblin warriors into 2nd-order goblin elites, relying solely on the resources already available in this world fragment was already the limit. It simply cannot be rated as a rich resource level. Unless there are relics. Lodan's eyebrows relaxed, comforting himself. Although his initial race was a prisoner race, at least he was also a wise race. The size of the world fragments was dust level, but there were relics, so it wasn't the worst start. I have rejected the investment from the Space War Department, and with the style of the Space War Department, there should not be a second chance. Other war companies may not extend an olive branch to me, and the original owner's family background is also average. Both parents signed contracts to sell world debris resources, and the world debris was transferred to a safe area as a logistics base. In terms of trading, they could not provide me with any help. Except for the ruins, then there is only world war. Lodan's thoughts moved slightly, and the Anchor of the Void on the screen in front of him flashed, transforming into a 3-dimensional virtual ancient stone anchor. Type. Divine Art, Name. Anchor of the Void, Special Effect. Consume different levels of belief points, create the Anchor of the Void you want, and cast it into the endless void. Perhaps you can find the world, fragments, you want. Consumption. Starting from 10 points of faith, grab with both hands must be hard. Lodan simply sets the conditions he needs. World type. Fragment, maximum spiritual power level not exceeding 3rd level, consumption required. 400 faith points, production. Lodan waved his hand lightly, and a golden glow fell onto the screen of light. At the next moment, the Anchor of the Stone Void appears. Above is a small golden chain-like imprint, symbolizing locking. And a pair of golden eyes, symbolizing voyeurism, allowing the deity to spy on the target before deciding whether to go to war. Go! Lodan waved his hand and threw the anchor of the void, which turned into a golden light and instantly escaped from the world fragments. Subsequently, Lodan lowered a thread of consciousness and transmitted the message he wanted to convey to the tribal chieftain's mind, descending the oracle to search for relics. As he watched the Goblin tribe below busy, assigning teams to explore unknown areas, he couldn't help but bring some anticipation. I don't know what this relic is. Professional inheritance. Material treasure. Or remains of civilization. Forget it, being able to make a barren, level world fragment transcend, decent and directly reach, rich, is extremely precious for the Goblin people, regardless of what it is. Moreover, even if it's not possible, it can still be traded within this T.World community. After making arrangements, Lodan was about to follow the Goblin exploration team sent out to take a look at this primitive and ancient world when he suddenly received a series of urgent reminders in the superdimensional seal, Human Federation. Blue Star Guard Department. Dear player, according to your real-life positioning of Zhou City, there is a level 4 space crack in your area with extremely low danger. We are now issuing a low-risk alert for you. Level 4 spatial cracks. Upon seeing the alarm reminder, Lodan was taken aback for a moment. The 4-level space crack is the lowest level of space crack, and can only accommodate the passage of 3rd-level master-level life. In terms of the defense of Zhou City, there is almost no danger. Under the most common human cultivation system, the first level is equivalent to a formal knight who has initially touched spiritual energy. Wearing heavy armor, he can charge through small battlefields and determine the outcome of a small battle. The second level is already in existence that is gradually becoming non-human, starting to elevate its life level. For example, the goblins, who can harden their skin, can be said to be invincible, and ordinary cold weapons are difficult to damage. At the 3rd level master level, it is even more necessary to comprehend a certain, artistic conception and be able to feel the rules, which can be said to be an enemy of 10,000 people. Space cracks often appear on a large scale, which means that a space crack can appear in any corner of Zhou City, and then several monsters can jump out. The most important thing is that the monsters that can appear on the local blue star have a certain degree of uniqueness. That is to say, if I can summon the elite goblin to kill those monsters, perhaps I can harvest some good drops. Without hesitation, Lodan chose to go offline. A stunning sight, before his eyes was no longer the blue sky and white clouds, as well as the pitch-black void outside the blue sky. Instead, it was a slightly narrow single-family courtyard with outdated decorations and a remote location. Level 1 to Level 9. Warrior, Elite, Master, Extraordinary, Lord, Title, Legend, Epic, Semi-God, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Is this special goblin? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4. Is this special goblin? Blue Star, Zone 2. Zhoucheng, Outer City District, Longke Street. This place is mostly a standalone courtyard, not very wealthy. On the contrary, in the new era of high-dimensional games, spatial cracks can occur at any time, and dangers can arise at any time. So it leads to extreme differentiation of land value. There are only large cities and satellite towns with special functions distributed around them in this world. Every inch of land in the inner urban areas of the city is precious, while no one cares about the outer urban areas. Just like now, the wind and waves in the inner city area are calm, and the monsters escaping from the spatial cracks are easily strangled by the commissioner of the Blue Star Guard Department. In the outer city area, there are still many monsters wandering around. My father and mother both work in the inner city area, and now I am the only one at home. Buzz Lodan stood on the roof of his own house, gazing out. Just as he was about to greet his parents through the superdimensional imprint, his eyebrows suddenly pricked. Upon receiving a warning from his spiritual energy, he furrowed his brows. There are monsters nearby that can threaten me. Lodan's current level is a totem, capable of unleashing unparalleled power among the fragments of the world. But in reality, it's just a first-order level. After receiving the warning, he immediately became vigilant, consuming a small amount of faith points, blocking his breath, and his eyes emitting golden light. He began to observe and quickly found the target, a few humanoid creatures with dark red skin and a somewhat praying mantis-like shape, among which the leading one emits a third-order spiritual response and a sharp sword-like aura. They were still holding dark red bone spurs in their hands, as if they were still bleeding faintly, as if a massacre had just occurred. Third order. Humanoid creatures, understanding the artistic conception, should be intelligent beings. I don't know what drops can be obtained if I kill you. Belief point. 138 points. Lodan glanced at the faith points and found that there were initially 793 points. Blessing 35 Goblin Warriors costs 350 points, making the Void Anchor costs 400 points, and there are still 43 points. During this period, it is likely that the Goblin tribe has once again generated some faith points. Summoning a Goblin elite requires a consumption of 20 faith points. There are 1 at level 3 and 4 at level 2 on the opposite side. Summoning 6 should be enough. Lodan's mind moved and the belief points on the panel quickly consumed, leaving only 18 points. In the next moment, a spatial crack quietly appeared in front of him, and the 6 goblins quickly walked out with respectful expressions. Great Father, please guide your humble people in the direction of the enemy. Go ahead and kill them. Deacon Ma truly deserves to be the first deacon of the Lightning Sword sect. Your Lightning 5 swords can be said to be at the pinnacle, and I'm afraid you will be able to challenge the Sword Saint realm in the next step, becoming the new first. Yeah, these extraterrestrial creatures are so weak, but there are many precious medicines cherished at home, which is really eye-catching. Deacon Ma, this is our big chance. A group of praying mantis were searching for this luxurious-looking house with greedy eyes, ready to rush in and engage in massive slaughter and plunder at any time. Among them, there is also a young praying mantis man praising the middle-aged praying mantis man led by him. Humph, what's wrong with this? I have achieved the sword sect with the Lightning 5 consecutive swords. Today, I will use the blood of these ignorant beings from other worlds to build my invincible position as the Sword Saint. Mantis Man Sword Sect Ma Baugwa sneered, and the sword intent emanating from his body immediately made the other 4 innate mantis men feel cold. He secretly sighed in his heart that Deacon Ma was truly talented. He had such insights just by entering a different world, and his strength became even more profound and unpredictable. Suddenly, the dark red bone spurs in the hands of the Deacon Ma hummed, making him happy. He felt the aura of a treasure that matched his sword intent, but at the same time, he also sensed the aura of extraterrestrial creatures. Glancing at the 4 innate swordsmen behind him with a slanted eye without showing any trace, Deacon Ma's heart showed disdain. A group of fools, I tricked them into coming over and giving them the queen's seat. Do you really think you can handle it too? On the other hand, he spoke kindly, be careful, everyone. There are treasures nearby, as well as enemy bandits. Follow me and execute them together. At the next moment, he took the lead and his terrifying jumping ability made him jump hundreds of meters in an instant. A few jumps arrived at a welfare home. No matter how powerful and prosperous the world is, there will always be a dark side. In recent decades, even though human power and resources have expanded to an indescribable extent due to the advent of superdimensional games, there are still continuous spatial cracks. Blue stars are civilizations that have grown up through continuous destruction and creation. This means that the fragmentation of countless families will result in a large number of children needing social support from welfare institutions when their lifespan is not up to standard. As soon as he stepped into the welfare home, Deacon Ma was taken aback for a moment and suddenly showed a fierce smile. In front of him were a group of young creatures from another world, several women from another world, and several arched women with dark skin and long ears, emitting a dark aura that disgusted him. And what attracted him was the red ring in one of these exotic women's hands. The Deacon Ma just glanced at it and was so angry that he trembled all over, making a strange squeaking sound in his mouth. Damn it. This aura is definitely not wrong. It's definitely Millennium Blood Essence. The more intact the blood essence is, the higher its value. You damn woman from another world, how could you turn Millennium Blood Essence into a ring? Smelling this intoxicating scent, even the 13 shots of Hunyuan were about to move. This couldn't be dragon blood. Damn it. Damn it. The bone sword in the hand of the steward Ma was suddenly bloody and full of sword intent. With a wave of his hand, he was about to kill all the foreign creatures in front of him who had plundered the heavens. That's it, come out and become a volunteer. Why did you encounter a level 4 space crack and happen to encounter a level 3 master level monster? Even if I randomly selected the shadow elves of the high sovereign species as followers, they have only been in their nascent state for a few days, and they are still only first order. The potential is enormous, but the strength is about 0. Damn it, damn it. The girl looked at the praying mantis monster in front of her, squeaking and screaming. Although she couldn't understand what he was calling, it was obvious that the murderous gaze was fixed on her, and her face turned pale with fear. But she didn't give up, still struggling in the end, elf blessing technique. Tang Yiming waved and consumed all the faith points at once. In the next moment, the golden light shines. Instantly added buffs such as, cat's agility, dragon's might, eagle's agility, snake's latent, bear's fury, to the 5 first order shadow elf warriors in front of me, regardless of whether they were useful or not. I hope to escape this calamity. Unfortunately, it was of little use as the shadow elves were easily slaughtered by this group of praying mantis monsters. Unfortunately, if it weren't for the fact that the sect leader once said that this gate to the other world wouldn't exist for too long, I would have wanted to capture you and interrogate you thoroughly if there were any other millennium-old blood spirits. Deacon Ma sneered coldly, without any hesitation. He drew his sword and was about to kill Tang Yiming, and then seized the precious ring made of millennium blood essence. Tang Yiming closed her eyes and waited for her death. At this moment, she was actually calm and thought of things she had dared to think and do before. A handsome figure appeared in her heart, having seen it once in a super-dimensional simulation. Unfortunately, I haven't taken care of Lodan yet. Humph, little prisoner seed. Before, you were a top student and I couldn't stand it up. Now, I am a monarch seed. When I grow up in the future, I will be able to take care of you. Unfortunately, I have no future. Just as she could clearly perceive the icy blade approaching, suddenly heavy footsteps rushed towards her. Why use collision? The sword edge in front of her throat quickly disappeared. Tang Yiming opened her eyes in shock and looked at the 6 green city walls in front of her, as well as the mantis sword sect holding a sword to resist the charge. Tang Yiming was a bit confused. Looking at the scene before her, her mind couldn't react. Green skin. This appearance. This can't be Goblin, can it? Goblin is so big. Just like her, Deacon Ma was also shocked. Feeling the breath emanating from the 6 large creatures in front of me, as well as the numbness in the arms that were still being collided even after timely turning around to resist, the surging chi and blood, and even a slight crack appeared on the bone sword that depended on life. He feels a bit like vomiting blood. Is this innate? So what? Don't underestimate me, I'm not an ordinary sword sect. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. These green-skinned young people don't speak of martial arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. These green-skinned young people don't speak of martial arts. Even if it's just innate, dare to confront the power of my master. The mantis man and the horse deacon let out a long roar from their mouth, and their true energy surged and surged. In an instant, their body size more than doubled, and their shell became even darker. Die. At the next moment, the Deacon Ma's solemn sword intent, gambling on glory and life, surged into the sky. Waves of electric light couldn't stop jumping on the bone sword, flickering with dangerous light. In an instant, he was about to take away the heads of these huge green-skinned creatures. Be careful. Although Tang Yimeng's strength is low, he is still a god player. He has seen many followers of the martial arts system demonstrate the power of true Qi on forums. The third-level master martial artist who knows how to refine true Qi, known as blazing Qi, is a deadly skill that burns the root of life. If used properly, it can even pose a significant threat to fourth-order extraordinary life, let alone goblins with only second-order elite spiritual reactions. The next scene couldn't help but make Tang Yimeng feel hopeless. It's over, it's really over now. Deacon Ma's heart was burning with anger. How dare you? How dare you underestimate me? When 6 goblins, like brown bears, faced a critical blow from the third-level sword sect that burned their lives, they unexpectedly separated 3 with an indifferent appearance to deal with 4 innate praying mantis swordsmen, leaving only 3 goblins to face the horse deacon directly. Deacon Ma was extremely angry and laughed back. In this extreme anger, with his physique, he even felt a slight looseness in the unbreakable past that used to lead to the Sword Saint. Today, I will use the blood of others to build the foundation of my Sword Saint. Just as Deacon Ma's sword was about to touch the 3 elite goblins and attempt to kill them all in one go, he saw a scene that left him stunned. The 3-headed giant green-skinned creatures were covered in a silver-gray, steel-like luster, and then shrouded in a similar gray luster, as if linking the lives of the 6 of them together. Tie the wolf pack. Legion battle formation. 3 or 6 soldiers can build a legion. Deacon Ma's doubts turned into doubts, but as soon as the violent energy was released with a sword, there was no reason to turn back. Even if it's a legion battle, I've encountered it before. When the dynasty sent troops to besiege our lightning sect, there was also this army formation, but it was still pierced by the head of the Sword Saint. Now I, Ma Baogua, can also do this old story of the Sword Saint. At the next moment, Chief Goblin, the leader, reached out his palm the size of a cattail fan and forcefully grasped it, shattering the bone sword. Before the steward Ma could react, he bent his finger and popped it out. The steward Ma's watermelon-sized head instantly shattered. Ma Baogua only left one idea behind in the end: how can we use the Legion battle formation to sneak an attack and deceive my elderly family? This green-skinned young man. Don't talk about martial arts. Behind Chief Goblin, 3 other goblin elites also instantly exploded the organs of the 4 innate praying mantis swordsmen and killed them alive. Glancing at Tang Yimeng with a pleasing smile, Chief Goblin casually searched for the belongings carried by the 5 praying mantis people before leaving the welfare home, as if nothing had happened. When these 6 green city walls left, Tang Yimeng breathed a sigh of relief and looked sadly at the bodies of the 5 shadow elves lying on the ground. Look at you, at least you are also a high monarch species. Although it's only a first level, I don't ask you to go against the third level. At least those second-level praying mantis monsters need to be dragged down. And the result? Not a single one. It's not as good as Goblin. Although she said so, Tang Yimeng still burned the bodies of these shadow elves with her slightly restored faith, took away the true spirits, and prepared to put them into the shadow altar among the world fragments for reincarnation. This is her secret: she has a damaged civilization weapon. After finishing all of this, her expression gradually became excited. While comforting the frightened children with other volunteers at the welfare home, she regretted not using the video function to record the battle just now. This is Goblin from a superior battle. Excitedly, he used his super-dimensional imprint to connect with his good friend. In the midst of excitement, she suddenly thought of the male god she couldn't forget after meeting him once. These goblins, can't it be from Rodan? After all, Rodan is so powerful, and he even refused the invitation from the Space War Department. He has the ability to cultivate such a powerful goblin. And he also saved me. Who would have come to save me so coincidentally? In addition to her fantasies, Tang Yimeng is still somewhat rational. Hey, Rodan and I entered the super-dimensional game in the same period, and my higher monarch species only has 1 level. His goblin was fortunate enough to survive among the fragments of the world. Unfortunately, this player is too mysterious. Otherwise, I would like to ask how his goblin was trained, and maybe in the future, I can still use it to win Lodan's heart. Tang Yimeng couldn't resist and posted a post on the newly established T forum. Log. Your followers have just finished a mini battle. Log. Your followers have killed 4 second. Order health and 1/3. Order health. Log. You have gained faith points plus 180 points. Log. You have obtained the special effect, Killing Sword Intention, and have been corrected to the special effect, Killing Will, for you. A powerful aura roared from the inner city area, including legendary level air cavalry. Lodan knew that the 4-level space crack had come to an end. Before waiting for the 6 goblins to return home, Lodan opened a space crack remotely and sent them back to the world debris. Later, when he returned home, he opened the log and was pleasantly surprised to find that he had received a willpower special effect in this wave. I'm really dozing off. Here's a pillow. Previously, I was still worried about how to break through the 2nd to 3rd level pass and let Goblin, who had relatively low intelligence, understand the will. Isn't that what happened? Lodan held his emotions and looked at the super-dimensional imprints that had already been reminded by several messages, turning back one by one. Surprisingly, many female classmates who had hardly been contacted before sent messages asking if they needed help. Am I just so weak? Lodan shook his head and chuckled a bit. This cannot be blamed on anything else, it can only be blamed on the fact that the prisoner is planted in the entire endless void, which is indeed the lowest level existence. After all, how strong can it be compared to races like dwarves, slimes, half-bodied humans, and lower skeletons that have almost no combat power? Especially in the super-dimensional game, only one goblin under the command of the most powerful goblin deity recorded has reached level for extraordinary. The fake extraordinary dragon blood goblin was created at a great cost and cost tens of thousands of goblins' lives. Just as Lodan was preparing to assist the goblin tribe in searching for relics, a violent vibration suddenly came from within the superdimensional imprint. Quickly, he found the source of the vibration and realized that it was a newly established T forum that had been pulled in by someone. He couldn't help but look serious. Strangely, this kind of vibration usually only comes when a major event occurs and is marked as a major milestone event by the forum itself, and now he couldn't help but be not serious. The last time this vibration occurred was 10 years ago, when it first appeared in the unexplored world community marked as Y and later named Abyss, in the Abyss Forum. That time, it was the native master of the Abyss who suddenly took action, instantly destroying the world of hundreds of god players, including even more than 10 super-level players. Now, the T-World community where he is located is also a brand new exploration world community, and there has been a milestone event like vibration. Lodan took a deep breath and thought to himself, I hope it's not such a malignant event. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Steel, Energy, and Flesh. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Steel, Energy, and Flesh. Lodan opened the T forum and quickly flipped through it to obtain useful information while searching for the milestone event. The term mineral veins has appeared more than 1,350 times. There are many creatures without wisdom, especially many. Tisk, why are there still people discussing the city wall goblin that appeared in Zhou City? It's okay. It's not right. It can be said that it's natural to suspect me and then rule out my wrong answer. Continuing. The body of the wisdom seed is fragile, but it is often easy to give birth to legal professions. Often, when a world community exhibits a biased set of traits, it is possible to have a level 2, even level 1, or even a dominant civilization. Level 3 civilization. Surface civilization. Civilization has not given birth to a super level. Level 2 civilization. The strongest individual in civilization can break through the super level and break through the surface. Level 1 civilization. Civilizations exist at multiple super levels and begin colonizing multiple worlds/planets. Dominant civilization. Civilizations are born to dominate and be able to dominate a world community. Overlord-level civilization. Civilization gives birth to multiple masters, dominating the original world community while beginning to colonize other world communities. This is the classification of civilization levels in high-dimensional games, which also reveals the cruelty in the endless void. Quickly, Lodan found a milestone event, which was a projection video of a divine player's final confession and warning, "My name is Sith, my fellow countrymen." When you saw this video, I was already dead and self-destructed. You can see that behind me is my world, and I am quite lucky. Initially, I was able to randomly land on a mini-planet and skip the world fragmentation stage. Initially, my race was also a high monarch and mountain giant, and as an adult, I reached the 5th level Lord level. And now, it is the scene of my planet being invaded by the indigenous civilizations of this T-world community. They used a special method to block the entire planet, making it impossible to send out any signals. As you know, the information transmission system of high-dimensional games also often fails. So I chose to self-destruct, and I don't know if the power sublimation during self-destruct can break through the information blockade and transmit messages, let alone whether you have seen this lucky video. Even if it's possible, my memories have been fully extracted, and everything about us is known to others. What I said is a bit chaotic, you should watch it yourself. Lodan saw that the direction of the forum had changed from questioning to silence, and his mood immediately became heavy. What Sith said was indeed a bit messy. The combination of mini-planets and advanced monarchs has become a high-end configuration that many people long for. Perhaps at the beginning, his strength may not be enough, but as a player, his vision must be high-end enough. Can make him speak incoherently. Lodan squinted slightly and clicked on the video below Sith's confession to watch. The video is not long, it is a combination of several first-person perspective videos that were quickly watched. After reading it, Lodan's face immediately became extremely ugly. The mountain giant of the Sith is the darling of the earth, born with elite strength that can crush the 3rd-level master level of war. Nearly 10 tribes have developed on the entire planet, with thousands of elite mountain giants. Looking at all the new god players, even many mythological worlds cannot match their current level of development. But his enemies are even more terrifying beings. Those are huge steel war fortresses suspended in the sky, as if embedded in the atmosphere. Every war fortress emits a huge beam of light that rushes straight towards the earth. War machines step out of the beam with heavy strides, and their various weapons exude a strong sense of science fiction. Laser beams or blue-purple plasma were shot out one after another, easily piercing through the mountain giant. Iron nets, accompanied by anesthesia, popped out, capturing the mountain giant. The mountain giant, who has a fierce personality and is difficult to defeat even with anesthetics, is quickly beheaded by war machinery holding cold weapons, and then quickly arrived with medical machinery and subjected to freezing treatment. Even the mountain giant king, who had reached an extraordinary level, let out a fierce cry, looking at the Sith in pain, and was captured and dragged into the fortress of war. Sith watched this scene from a first-person perspective without any movement, as if indifferent. Above him, there are also beam connections between the war fortresses, like an airtight web that tightly blocks the planet. And in front of him stands a humanoid war machine that is a mixture of machinery, energy, and flesh and blood, with a relatively small body size of less than 2 meters. There was a halo hanging behind his mechanical head, as majestic as a mechanical deity, and his mouth was filled with proficient mountain giant language, a good civilization. It took me 2 empires to parse the language. You seem to have a collective consciousness of this race and possess a certain level of autonomous intelligence, but surprisingly, you are attempting to deliver messages outside the planet. As a group consciousness of weak civilizations without the ability to travel far into the universe, why would they attempt to transmit messages to the universe? You probably don't have the concept of the universe. Forget it, imprison you. The guild's dungeon strategy specialists should be very interested in you. Let them handle the task of extracting memories. The anthropomorphic war machine is quite talkative, but the implied meaning is that it has already treated the Sith like fish and meat on the chopping board, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In the video, the expression desire of this humanoid war machine, which combines energy and flesh and blood, seems to be stronger, but it seems to be speaking to others. Strangely enough, the newly developed copies of Empire Virtual Universe Company are becoming increasingly realistic. Take a look at the real expressions of those mountain giant monsters below. Their flesh and blood are blurry. In the past, this was 18-band content. As my fans, you are blessed. Take a look at the current dungeon boss, with a basic combat power of 5,340 and a template combat power bonus of 3,250. LV.53 leads the boss monster of the template, with a total combat power of nearly 9,000. Even among legendary players, it is not considered weak. But for me, a quasi-palace level player who is about to enter the highest hall of players, it's time to sprinkle water. Let me tell you another secret. When I came out to carry out the mission this time, I secretly brought a big guy with me. Just as this humanoid war machine was preparing to capture the Sith, a voiceover came from the projection, which was the voice of the Sith. I can feel a terrifying presence staring at me from the war fortress above my head. If he takes action, I will have no resistance. In order to avoid wasting too many belief points in fighting this guy, which would result in me not even having the power to self-destruct and losing the ability to deliver the last message, I chose to directly self-destruct in order to have a glimmer of hope for the message to be transmitted. I have only one thing to plead with you all about this. I hope that if I can help you, you can do your best to help my sister. Please. Immediately after, the voiceover ended and the video continued. Just as Sith was preparing to self-destruct, the white halo projection behind the humanoid war machine suddenly flashed red, issuing a warning, and then he quickly retreated without hesitation. Boom! The Sith self exploded, with a strong golden light and huge flames instantly expanding. The chain reaction caused the planet's structure to become unstable, and even the planet had a tendency to explode together. The video was about to end, but just before the end of the video, everyone saw a shocking scene that shook them. In the final perspective of the Sith, he only saw a mechanical giant palm that was capable of blocking the sky and the sun, a mixture of machinery, energy, and flesh and blood blending together, without distinguishing between each other. Boom! Planet seemed to mourn and tremble because of its appearance. Grasping the planet with his giant palm, he instantly showed any signs of the planet exploding eliminated. New books, young seedlings, seeking collection, follow.up reading, and recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Grassroots Counterattack Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Grassroots Counterattack Plan. After watching the video, even Lodan remained somewhat silent. Whether it was the seemingly unfamiliar but familiar, or the super-level existence represented behind the giant palm that blocked the sky and sun in the end, he was deeply pondered. The super-level is very powerful, with a physical body crossing the void, and one strike can crush a miniature planet. Give the super-level enough time, and even small planets will be completely destroyed and fall into death. But in super-dimensional games, among divine players, super-levels are not unattainable, and can even be said to be quite a few. However, when a civilization so powerful that it can freely dispatch high-level missions is by its side, Lodan believes that even those mythical god players will toss and turn all night long. Super advanced. The scene he had just seen still lingered in Lodan's mind. The mechanical giant palms that block the sky and sun, as well as the so-called mountain giant monsters of humanoid war machinery, isn't this a player? Lodan's expression became playful, treating World War as a virtual online game, where players manipulate war machinery like manipulating game characters. Interesting. No longer thinking about these meaningless things, Lodan continued to look at the T forum, which was no longer as silent as before, and gradually someone began to speak. No way, is this definitely a T-world community? Executing tasks. That war machine just said executing tasks, right? What tasks are being executed? Yeah, it's not like we've already discovered our existence, is it? It's a bit scary. Hurry up and inform the top management of the Federation. There are at least 100,000 God players in our group who have entered the super-dimensional game in the T.World community. The Federation cannot afford to die without rescue. You don't have to say it, the Federation definitely knows, but the problem is that we are at war with the Abyss civilization and the puppetry civilization on both sides, and even the Federation may not have enough strength to support us. That's just a matter of fate. Not necessarily. After all, Hathaway is also in the T-World community, and the Federation can give up on us, but it is impossible for the Imperial family to give up on the Royal Highness Princess, right? Yeah, I hope so. Without further ado, any of you who have items or spells that can promote the proliferation of believers can trade with me to ensure that the price is satisfactory to you. +1. I want to develop well, at least dying is worth it. Lodan closed the forum interface. Although some people are somewhat reasonable, the Empire of Extreme Hope will not abandon their princess. But what does that have to do with him? After all, everything can only rely on oneself. After obtaining that special effect, Will to Kill, Rodan's slightly lazy heart immediately swept away and became even more vigilant. Before developing, never expose your virtual coordinates. Lodan recalled the steps he took to make the Void Anchor himself, following the divine spell drawings recorded in the textbook and the release step by step, without leaking coordinates, which finally relieved him. By the way, the speed of excavating relics in the world's debris needs to be accelerated. Also, if the Anchor of the Void has not yet found a suitable world, then make a few more and find them together. Lodan sank his consciousness, and in the next moment, he turned into a pair of blood-red eyes and appeared among the fragments of the world. At this moment, his vision has completely changed from before. Even though the exploration team dispatched by the Goblin tribe has not yet discovered any relics, they have basically explored the world fragments under the leadership of Goblin's elite. So his vision is no longer limited to the vicinity of the Goblin tribe, but can see through the fragments of the entire world, 3 first-order species. The Gale Monkey, the Horned Snake, and the Steel-backed Wild Boar. 7 first-order materials, including Shurgang, Sanxingua, Snake Scale Fruit, and Taichin Tree. Lodan was already quite satisfied with the availability of these resources for a mere dust-level world fragment, and suddenly his gaze froze. Something's wrong. Why are all 5 first-order materials and 2 first-order creatures in that dense forest? Immediately revealing a smile, Ruins, have you exposed your little black feet? Immediately, the divine edict was issued, and because there was no danger, only the elite of Goblin was sent to the dense forest. His dust-level world fragments were extremely small, and 30.5 goblins of elite quickly arrived in front of the dense forest. And in the dense forest, a pair of crimson eyes lit up, staring fixedly at the Goblin elites, as if they would fight to the death if they dared to come in. According to the great prophecy of our father, these creatures are called wind monkeys. Although they do not pose a threat to us, they are quite difficult to deal with in the dense forest. And there is also a highly venomous snake monster called the horned scale snake inside, which is very disadvantageous for us in jungle warfare, so. Chief Goblin, who was particularly tall, spoke loudly and pulled out a stone axe from his waist. Cut down all these trees. Create a terrain that benefits us. Then, the elite goblins took out stone axes one after another. In the next moment, their skin shimmered with a silver-gray sheen, and their already muscular bodies swelled again. With each axe and tree, the 35 goblins of elite began to chop down all the trees in front of them like 35 bulldozers. Rodan watched this scene with great interest. This goblin chieftain is quite intelligent, maybe the only goblin in this goblin tribe with normal intelligence. It's worth cultivating. Unfortunately, if we want to bring something from the Blue Star, we will have to pay a great price, otherwise we wouldn't still be using stone weapons now. Lodan felt a bit helpless. Although he had just summoned the elite goblins to fight on Blue Star, the things on both sides were not actually connected. This is the theory discovered by a dominant god player on Blue Star, the theory of true spirituality and the theory of material reconstruction. It is about everything, whether living or inanimate, being composed of the most fundamental true spirit, and then relying on the true spirit to build entities from matter. That is to say, the summoning just now was actually Lodan temporarily summoning 6 elite true spirits from Goblin to the Blue Star, and then consuming their faith points to carry out material reconstruction. When the elite true spirit of Goblin returned to the world fragments, the temporarily reconstructed material body on the Blue Star had no true spirit to rely on, and naturally dissipated out of thin air. So, just now there was no real teleportation of the material world. The harvest of the praying mantis monster naturally cannot be brought back to the world fragments by the Goblin elites. Moreover, the T-World community doesn't know how far away from the Blue Star is, and if they want to activate space teleportation to transport supplies, they may be able to buy a large planet directly. This is also because in previous forums, there was a situation with the god players in the T-World community, and they could only rely on the support of the god players in the same world community as him, rather than directly supporting from Blue Star. Of course, this is also an opportunity. Lodan's eyes flickered as he said, on the Blue Star, I can't compete with anyone in terms of resources. But in the T-World community, everyone is a new god player. Even the resources of monarchs and even mythological species must have various shortcomings. If I could monopolize a scarce resource, I'm afraid it could directly alleviate my predicament of insufficient resources. Furthermore, there are significant differences in species resources between the New World community and other world communities. The formulas used in other places, as well as the idea of constructing matching formulas, may not be applicable here. Those who start off with an explosive chart or have an extraordinary family background still have an advantage, but it is no longer a world of difference, but can be seen by looking up. Let me think, what's worth me doing? As a former academic achiever, he quickly thought of over 10 resources that he had listed as a Grassroots counterattack plan. But soon, the dense forest below. Now it was an open space, and the movement in the open space interrupted his thoughts. That was the scene where the elite goblins cut down all the trees in the dense forest except for the first-level resources, and drove away all the wind monkeys and horned snakes, searching for the ruins. Let's take a look first, let's talk about what the ruins are. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. We will not let the most valuable man in the Horde become a potion master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 won't let the most capable man in the tribe become a potion master, will it? T04 World Region, Dust World, protect resources. Chief Goblin roared, now it's time for the final harvest. After working hard for most of the day, and they must show their bravest posture in front of the Father God, drive out all these fierce wind monkeys that harass us. Chief Goblin deeply understood the concept of sustainable development of resources in his oracle. If it weren't for the destruction of his home and the fierce wind monkeys desperately blocking it, he wouldn't even want to take action against these first-order monkeys. As an adult gift for the younger generation of the ethnic group, isn't it fragrant? The Goblin tribe never had a concept of coming-of-age ceremony before. No, I dare not have it either. As one of the weakest races, although their strength is weak, their potential is also low. And he is also extremely fond of infighting, ignorant of wisdom, and has a violent temperament. Under the blessing of his father, the wise Goblin chieftain himself was puzzled as to how the Goblin race existed. Is it really just relying on the saying, existence is reasonable? Although he was enlightened, he didn't want to think so much. He only wants to be forever loyal to the great Father God, just bathed in the great radiance of Father God, and he is satisfied. And now, not only has he developed wisdom, but other members of his tribe have gained powers that they couldn't even imagine before. Now he dares to think of some coming-of-age ceremony for the little goblin in the tribe, which is a cross-class leap for their tribe. So, Chief Goblin's eyes were full of fierce light. Anyone who dares to stop me from completing the Father's oracle will die. It seems that he was intimidated by his strong killing intent, or perhaps because too many of his peers died, the Gale monkeys fled in a hurry. As for the horned scale snake, cold-blooded animals do not have the concept of home, they have long been yo-yo. Oh. Chief Goblin's condition, however, made Lodan somewhat leery. Can one comprehend will by relying on oneself? If you really understand, it can be called the first pride that the Goblin tribe has encountered in 1,000 years. I don't mind giving you a chance to become a hero. Lodan did not focus too much on Chief Goblin, but instead looked towards the center of the clearing, where the ruins were located. This is an underground space similar to a laboratory, where piles of data and various strange-looking experimental instruments are placed. Laboratory, Lodan's consciousness emanated, although he could not understand the functions and characteristics of these texts and experimental instruments. But at least he is also a god. Isn't it true that God is best at creating things in the void? Although he is only a totem now and cannot create anything in the void, he doesn't start from a physical perspective. Instead, he directly says, although I don't know what it is, I want to know. If I consume enough faith points, I can know. This is very reasonable. The majestic points of faith began to be rapidly consumed. It seems that creating an anchor of the void requires 400 faith points, making faith points seem very worthless. But actually it's not like that. You should know that the anchor of the void can freely shuttle through the void and has a certain degree of autonomous intelligence, which can constantly search for the world and independently draw spiritual energy from the void to restore strength. Although the greatest thing is the existence of creating this divine technique, the value of faith points cannot be ignored at will. So, in just a few seconds, the number of faith points in front of Lodan changed from 430 to 73, which surprised him and made him even more eager for the legacy in this laboratory. In the next moment, the laboratory that had absorbed all the points of faith seemed to temporarily possess a certain level of spirituality, with messages emanating from the laboratory and then entering Lodan's consciousness, being absorbed by him. After a moment, Lodan suddenly opened his eyes and was pleasantly surprised. The information conveyed to him by the laboratory is undoubtedly a professional inheritance, a complete set of configuration information for a special medication, and ideas on how to mix and reconstruct the formula when the medication is targeted at different races. The light screen in front of Lodan revealed these two tools: type, career inheritance, name, 7 sins pharmacist, limitation, wisdom seed, limited to 1 life form inheritance, quality, legendary, ordinary, extraordinary, legendary, super advanced, dominant, special effect. It can refine the 7 evil emotions of intelligent life into potions, which can be used for evil or good. Type, pharmacy, name, efficient reproductive medicine, limitation, sexual reproduction of life, only effective for 4th order and below life forms, quality, extraordinary, special effect. Well, I don't need to introduce this too much. Actually, I think more of it called Chunri, the successor. I hope you can fulfill my last wish and create a Chunri series that is also effective for legends. Even in the Grassroots counterattack plan, the things in this relic can still rank first. While Lodan was excited, the corners of his mouth also twitched slightly. Let's just put on a vest. I don't want others to give me some weird nicknames in the future. Of course, the real reason is not just a nickname, but also because of the name. Based on some confidential information that he had previously inquired about and was blocked by senior management, it is unclear whether it is true or false, name, whether it's fame or any other name. What he knows is not specific, he only knows that this name involves the path beyond the super level. Of course, it is possible that what he inquired about was simply fake news, or it is also possible that this name has nothing to do with the so-called fame. But being cautious and careful is always good. Anyway, wearing a vest is not a disadvantage for him. but the limitations of this kind of intelligence. Lodan's blood-red eyes turned downwards, and apart from Chief Goblin, all the other Goblin elites looked like foolish and reckless men. He couldn't help but let out a thud in his heart. Goblin should also be considered a species of wisdom, right? We won't let the most capable man in the tribe become a pharmacist, will we? A hint of doubt flashed in Lodan's heart. He was randomly assigned to dust-level world fragments, and as an initial believer, prisoner-level Goblin had already proven that he was not a particularly lucky creature. How come these days have been a series of good luck instead? Let's forget about the rare killing intent that falls, it belongs to the system. However, there is still a legendary professional inheritance hidden in the dust-level world fragments, and what is outrageous is that it happens to be exactly what he needs. I can't find any trace at all. Lodan shook his head and stopped thinking about it. According to the information in the inheritance of medicine, the materials required to make efficient reproductive medicines are already present in the fragments of this world: the reproductive desire of the wind monkey, Samsung pollen, snake scales and fruit pits, horn scales and snake blood, Thai green leaves. Amazing, a potion made purely of first order materials can greatly affect the emotional will of extraordinary creatures. The desire for reproduction of the Gale monkey should be the core material for this potion to cross levels and move its will. Unfortunately, I cannot give this professional inheritance to anyone, otherwise I will definitely be able to sell it at a high price on the T forum. But I can sell the formula for efficient reproduction potions after harvesting the first bucket of gold and preparing higher level reproduction potions. No matter how magical a potion is, it is ultimately an external substance that will inevitably have an impact on the quality of offspring. So the god players in the T-world community may have a strong desire in the early stages due to the emergence of unfamiliar civilizations, putting the world and believers on the right track, and there will be a fanatical pursuit for this type of potion. After this period of time has passed and their respective worlds are on the right track, there will be no need for reproductive drugs anymore. Lodan hesitated slightly and handed over the inheritance of the Seven Sins pharmacist profession to Chief Goblin. There's no other way, there's really no other Goblin with this brain left. Subsequently, after Chief Goblin accepted the inheritance, the task of making efficient reproductive potions was arranged. He is already a bit eager to take someone else's pocket. Requesting votes for follow-up reading, the author bows and thanks. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Utopian Dominator. Holy See. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Utopian Dominator. Holy See. T-World Community, T01 Area, Thai Star, Supergiant Planet. In the past, there was a layer of simulated shielding position outside the planet of Thai, which obscured the bustling scenes of various warships, war machinery, mechas, and giant satellites outside the planet, simulating nothing. But today, the pseudo-blocking position still exists, but it seems like a stuck frame, occasionally twisted and revealing its true appearance to the interior of Thai Star. War machines, which are comparable in size to small planets, are loaded with destroyer guns. The super mecha, wielding a mechanical chopper that can shatter a miniature planet with a single blow, stands in rows, presenting the most vigilant combat posture. Together with the Star Destroyer cannon, they face the outside of Thai Star like a formidable enemy, with a body size that can be described as tiny sage. This is a life form that looks extremely strange. He is tall and ferocious, like an evil creature crawling out of the abyss. On the head of the dragon, which seemed to be flowing with magma, there were 9 ferocious long horns and 5 spiky short horns intertwined in a grey thorny crown, with a robe covered in flames flowing over its body. But his temperament is elegant, like a wise man standing outside the river of time to record epic stories. In his hand is an indescribable ancient stone book, which seems to record all the fantasies of life. He seems to be the symbiosis of all contradictions, making it impossible for people to see directly, like the only one in the world. The comparison between flesh and blood life and war machinery should have been weak and powerless. But it is such a flesh and blood body that countless mechanical weapons that can easily destroy planets dare not act recklessly. Haha. I came from a long distance, and if I didn't want to have a good conversation, I just let it go and pointed a gun at me. Unfortunately, I'm not a good person at the age of 8. The Utopian master smiled lightly, and his voice oscillated and spread through the void of the universe, which should not have been able to transmit sound, reaching directly into the minds of all living beings. Strangely, the 3 sentences seem to have been spoken by 3 different beings. The Utopian master gently caresses the ancient stone books, opens his mouth again, and his voice seems to spread across time and space from ancient times. I say, what I see becomes nothing. I say that those who harbor hostility die here. I say, all heat and light will eventually disappear. In the next moment, the emptiness of the universe in front of me, dominated by imagination, seemed to be reduced into a painting scroll, and an invisible giant eraser began to work. Mechans, warships, and fortresses of war are like paintings that cannot resist being wiped away at the same time. The surroundings of the painting began to deteriorate, as if they had been infused with the breath of death. These are nothing. An even more terrifying scene is when a superstar in the Tyee galaxy begins to decay and extinguish its eternal flames, causing the sphere to tremble and gradually move towards the end of disintegration. And all of this is like fate, filled with an indomitable will. Just as Tyee star began to be swayed by the chaotic rules due to the collapse of a superstar, an illusory humanoid projection appeared in front of the imaginary ruler, bending slightly. Respected Crown Prince, Tyee Quantum Light is here to apologize for the impoliteness just now. I think you're willing to talk about it now. The Utopian master smiled slightly and elegantly put away the Utopian book, as if it was not he who almost destroyed the foundation of other civilizations just now. Log. Your goblin followers killed 13 fierce wind monkeys. Log. Belief points plus 130. Log. You have gained the drop effect. Reproductive desire. Log. You have discovered the ruins of the Teolisi Pharmaceutical Workshop. Log. You consume faith points, temporarily endow Teolisi Pharmaceutical Workshop with spirituality, harvest legendary professions, and harvest extraordinary potion formulas. Log. You have bestowed the legendary profession 7 Sins Apothecary to Goblin Chief Mage, and your Goblin tribe has started collecting materials. The efficient reproduction of the potion has entered the production process. Log. The anchor of the void you released has found a target. Have you entered the peeping mode? Log. It seems that there is an abnormal node in your tribe. Please pay attention to it. Everything has come together. Not bad, the potion has already started production, so I can also promote it on the T forum. Lodan is just a pseudo-god, just a totem, and cannot achieve the same level as a true god. After arranging Chief Goblin, he entered a brief dormant state and began to recover his energy. When I woke up, it was already 10 days later. He looked at the 2 prompts below the log with great interest. The anchor of the void has found the target world. Is there an abnormal node in the tribe? The target world can be explored at any time, so let's take a look at the abnormal nodes first. Having experienced over 100 super-dimensional simulations, Lodan only encountered 2 anomalous nodes in total. He still remembers the impact caused by those 2 abnormal nodes, which can be said to have directly changed the direction of the world during his high-dimensional simulation. Once, a virus appeared inexplicably, infecting a planet with 3 billion low-level war species, the jackal and werewolf, in just 3 hours. But this virus did not cause them all to die, but instead put these jackals and werewolves in a state of non-death and non-life, doubling their combat power and transforming sexual reproduction into asexual reproduction. With extremely low demand for external resources, they directly activated the critical mode, which was the time when he used low-level war weapons to hang and beat the low-level monarch species, the Heavenly Dragon Man. Another time, a space crack appeared on the planet, allowing his simulated planet to connect with another planet. The 2 planets merged, and after a fierce battle, his followers conquered the opposite planet. He also swallowed up the will of the opposite planet, leaping out of the totem realm, skipping the level where physical totems need to be condensed, and directly achieving the giant spirit realm. Of course, he is lucky. In real super-dimensional games, there are many instances of divine players encountering abnormal nodes and the world destroying themselves to death. I don't know where that strange good luck comes from. Lodan cast his gaze onto the edge of the Goblin tribe and had an inexplicable intuition in his heart: this abnormal node should be advantageous to me. While paying attention to the abnormal nodes, Lodan opened the T forum and prepared to start promoting his efficient reproductive potion. T forum. What exactly is this mechanical indigenous civilization? It made me very nervous and disrupted my original farming and development plan. That's right, the federal government hasn't given an explanation yet. Bureaucracy kills people. It's useless to talk about these things. Let's focus on how to develop quickly first. Yes, I didn't originally want to use substances that accelerate reproduction, but now there's no way, no need, no problem. Even if the quality of believers' offspring is lower, there's no way. Hehe, you can use it as you want. Is it possible that in our current T.World community, things that accelerate reproduction are very popular? Yeah, I was begging a few days ago, but no one has given me a response yet. I'm convinced. Normal world communities are all cheap products, so why is there a shortage of supply here? Don't worry, I have found a semi-god level pharmacist who should be able to develop a reproductive medicine using substances already present in this world community within 6 months. Upstairs, let me remind you that not only local substances, but also the methods of action of developed reproductive drugs, cannot violate the laws of this world community. Hey, I really envy those high-level believers races, which have their own cultural treasures and do not need these reproductive potions or other external substances to speed up offspring reproduction in a way that reduces the quality of offspring. Civilization treasures, and cultural heritage. I don't expect too much, just give me a missing civilization treasure and I can be satisfied. Come on, I have a missing civilization treasure here, but it's only a one-time item. It was obtained by my uncle from the Qingdi world community, and after using it, he can directly obtain 100,000 descendants. Sure, is that thing from you in the T-world community? No, it's not. Can you talk about a hammer? I won't let you open a space crack to teleport. I'll cover the cost of material reconstruction myself, and you'll cover the cost of true spiritual transfer. Not going out. Pull black. Thank you. Everyone looked at this scene in the forum, full of joy, but also felt that the future was somewhat uncertain. Because the civilization that destroyed the Sith world, the so-called mission execution, is likely specifically aimed at finding these divine players, don't be discouraged, everyone. My 7th and 8th grandniece is a low-level mythological species. I have insider information that the Federation has taken this matter seriously and dispatched a Holy See-level ruler to personally lead the way. Good news will soon come. Most people selectively ignored this news and continued to discuss how to rapidly develop the world. An unexplored world community is vast, and they may never encounter each other again in their lifetime, with no competitive relationship at all. Combined with external pressure from unfamiliar mechanical civilizations, this may be the most harmonious relationship in the T forum. Quickly, Lodan sent out a screenshot of the information on the highly efficient reproductive agent, and then edited a message and sent it up: specific information on efficient reproduction drugs, pretending to have a picture. A bottle of efficient reproductive potion is enough for 1 extraordinary, or 10 masters, or 100 elite, or 1,000 warrior life forms to use. After use, the effect increases the chance of soul penetration by 30%, the desire to reproduce increases by 70%, the breeding time is shortened by 100%, and the quality of offspring is reduced by up to 20%. 10 bottles of efficient reproductive medicine, exchange for a crystal of faith. It's not a two-price deal. The only reason for silently practicing for 2.5 years. As soon as the news of Lodan came out, the T-forum channel was instantly fried. It will cause intense discussion, as he expected, but the direction of the discussion is slightly different from what he expected. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Crossing the Green Skin. I dominate the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Crossing the Green Skin. I dominate the world. T04 World Community, Dust World, on the edge of the Goblin tribe, nausea. It's really dirty. A particularly thin and weak little brother named Bryn was secretly running into a small river outside the tribe, wearing green skin. He was vigorously scrubbing the dirt and unknown creatures on his body with a piece of rag feces. Not only the ignorant goblins, but also the ancient highland people who barely reached the level of low-level warfare, often live in cities filled with feces. I vomited. Little Green Skin kept scrubbing and wanting to spit it out, her eyes full of luster that ordinary goblins didn't have, but this luster was now filled with anger. What kind of race is this? Is there still a god here? Which god you believe in can only consider yourself unlucky. Little Green Pie almost shed the skin that had been rubbed off his body, so he reluctantly threw away the rags and lay down in the small river, using the cold river water to cool his hot brain. This is not due to fever caused by the virus, but simply a brain overload caused by excessive use of the brain. This is outrageous for the goblin race. In terms of their intelligence, their pitiful brain capacity can already be considered a luxury configuration. But for this little Green Skin, it was like a cage, imprisoning his brain's computing power to death. I didn't expect that time travel actually exists. And it can be manually controlled. Just use a super large spirit collider to collide with the Emperor's melody and open the channel. However, what kind of race am I crossing? My brain capacity configuration is not as good as my outdated computing device that has been out of use for 30 years. Unfortunately, there are no tools or assistants. I really want to quickly do a genetic editing project for this body. It's really not possible. Zyalvi closed his eyes with a complex expression, and in his pitch-black consciousness, there was a golden hexagram bone armor suspended. At least it allows me to activate my divine wisdom bone. Due to excessive use of his brain, little Green Skin quickly fell into a dream, and the divine wisdom bone spun slowly, illuminating his consciousness, allowing him to enter the past that he couldn't remember in the dream. Dr. Gu Yuan is a true genius. Dr. Gu Yuan has created a Lingzi collider that surpasses the technology level of the White Tower Federation for 30 years, which is beneficial for us to discover the undiscovered world. Shocked. The world may be proven to be multi-dimensional, and Dr. Gu Yuan's team may lead the world of Homo sapiens to explore colonization in different dimensions. Dr. Gu Yuan's team has created a large Lingzi collider, which is about to open the dimensional channel. Scenes kept replaying in Gu Yuan's mind, about to stage the peak and darkest moments of his life, leading a country with average technological level to the forefront of the world and discovering the mysteries of the world of Homo sapiens. It is hailed as the first genius to surpass all Homo sapiens in history. His unique destiny and wisdom bone at the center of his eyebrows are the best proof. Then, he personally created history. It's just that this history has a slight deviation from what he thinks and wants. He thought that, at their level, opening up new dimensions, as the discovered party, they must be weaker than them. Just like in the era of Homo sapiens navigation, the founder of Homo sapiens navigators, Columbus, discovered the New World and accumulated primitive wealth. They should be on the side of the colonizers. However, after the launch of the Large Spirit Collider, it successfully opened the world channel, but the opposite side was not the weak world they had imagined. But rather a true, terrifying and indescribable world, like the abyss recorded in the mythology of Homo sapiens. The world of Homo sapiens is devastated and polluted. The most outstanding genius in history has become the most heinous sinner in history. He personally destroyed the world he had nurtured and loved. At that moment, he instantly fell into madness. Fortunately, the innate destiny and wisdom bones of the Homo sapiens have blocked all painful memories. He can no longer remember how to manufacture a super-large spirit-child collider and then travel through a new world to become Little Green Skin. He's also a pitiful person. Lodan shook his head slightly, although he couldn't directly glimpse Gu Yuan's dream. But as the father god of Little Green Skin, he could see some fragments of Gu Yuan's memory, giving him a rough understanding. Travelers. Destiny and intelligence, enhancing intelligence and computing power, seem to be able to actively control one's emotions and personality, which is a good thing. The world behind him seems a bit interesting, especially the so-called Heavenly Destiny Wisdom Bone, if it can be transplanted or integrated into the Goblin tribe. At that time, the Goblins were able to truly undergo a fundamental leap. And that strange world like an abyss, seems a bit like the Abyss world. If possible, it's not impossible to absorb your race and become a subordinate race. Let's observe first. Lodan's blood-red eyes narrowed slightly as he lowered the divine edict. Command Chief Goblin to secretly take care of Gu Yuan, with low demands, just don't die. Other care requirements will be discovered by Gu Yuan, and the intelligence of the Goblin tribe cannot handle them. In the T forum, the voices of other divine players can be said to be particularly noisy. What? Are you crazy? A crystal of faith, 10 bottles of potions. No, do your family know that you set such an outrageous price? No, brother. I can pretend that you don't know the value of faith crystals. Quickly change the price for me, and I'll forgive you. Only with 1,000 points of faith can a crystal of faith be condensed. The anchor of a complex demand in the void may only have 500 or 600 degrees of confidence. Your analogy upstairs is wrong. I specially went to the slave market to buy a pair of twin fairy sisters' flowers, which is also a crystal of faith. The slave dealer also sent me a maid suit and a candle whip. That's right, hurry up and make the changes for me, otherwise I'll be angry. If it weren't for the inability to interfere with reproduction with faith points, it would make future generations brainless prayer machines. I wouldn't even glance at your news. The god players kept shouting for a long time, but didn't see the mystery because the seller had any reaction. Anyway, they just came up with a new message, I forgot to mention earlier, but the resources are currently a bit insufficient. The first batch is limited to purchasing 1,000 bottles. Super-dimensional notarization. 1,000/1,000 bottles. Don't think that if you limit your purchases and engage in hunger marketing like this, some of us will fall for it. Yes, brothers, don't buy it. Let the unscrupulous merchants go bankrupt. Yes, brothers, work together. At this moment, the divine players are like a family, together condemning unscrupulous merchants and resolutely not being deceived. Until the number displayed on the super-dimensional notarization increased from 1,000 to 950, the family members panicked and began to trample and condemn. Who, you stinky and shameless? Didn't you agree not to buy it? How could you secretly buy it? If you still buy it, you'll end up with 50 bottles. Pooh, it's shameless. I can't do it. I'll quickly buy 20 bottles too. No, didn't we say we wouldn't buy it? Why is it so special? It's gone. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been talking nonsense. I have been practicing silently for 2.5 years. Please, let me give you some more credit. I only need 10 bottles. You're not an unscrupulous businessman, please. Haha, thank you. Just because of the big shot, I got 10 bottles. 30 bottles in hand, family members, let me say, thank you just because. Even though unfamiliar civilizations are eyeing, when there is no external object to promote reproduction, everyone is not panicked. Don't panic when no one buys. But when I see that everyone around me seems to have them, but I don't have them, panic immediately arises. Seeing this scene, Lodan could only shake his head helplessly. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to help. If possible, I would also like to sell more. This thing won't be worth any more in the future. Looking at the disappearance of 1,000 bottles of efficient reproductive potions on the interface, as well as the addition of 100 faith crystals. The crystallization of faith is equivalent to the circulating currency in a superdimensional game. With this funding, he can do many things now. Next, the extraordinary level is a threshold. Lodan clicked on his information panel, Gods. Lodan, Divine Power. Totem, Virtual Body, Rule. Hunting, 43.7%, Bloody, 23.1%. Clergy. Goblin, Divine Emblem. A pair of blood-red eyes, Divine Technique. Hunting Spear, Rampage Bloodline, Goblin Blessing Technique, Anchor of the Void Believers. Goblin, Rank 0/1379, Goblin Elite, Rank 2/34, Goblin Chieftain, Rank 2/7 Sin Apothecary Legendary Occupation, Civilization. 25.00 Faith. 340 points Warehouse. Faith Crystal * 100, Special Effects, Killing Will, Special Effects Reproductive Desire, World Fragments. Dust Level, 340 square kilometers / Resource, Abundant, Nurturing First. Order Beasts and Resources, First, add the dropped items to the Goblin tribe. Lodan's consciousness turned to fragments of the world, and his blood-red eyes appeared again above the Goblin's tribe. Looking down at the respectful goblins below, he pondered in his heart, the goblins are known for their extremely fast reproduction and rapid growth of their offspring. If we add the desire for reproduction, the number of goblins can quickly multiply several times. Moreover, the Anchor of the Void has also discovered clues to the world, and I haven't had a chance to peek yet. If the locked foreign world meets my requirements, it will require a large amount of combat power to open up the world battlefield and conquer the foreign world. Let's first elevate the elite goblins into the killing goblins. In the next moment, Lodan will descend the oracle and bestow blessings. The author updates a minimum of 4,000 to 5,000 words every day, and today there are 6,000 words. If you think the author's writing is still good, I hope to receive support for follow-up reading, which is to see the last page, then scroll down to the end of the book, and pop up the interface where you are the first follow-up reader. Whether it's a recommendation ticket or a reward, a monthly pass, during the free period of a new book, it's not just important, it's also important. It's just that it's not important to follow up. Because only when there is a connection between follow-up reading and recommendation, there is only recommendation when there is follow-up reading. The author bows and thanks. Please, thank you. End of this chapter.